Guys, thanks again for coming out. And Tammy was very truthful in all the tears and the stomping. And there were times when I came home and she said, you know, it would be so much easier if I could just put them on a bus in the morning and send them away for a few hours. But all in all, I think she was very glad that she homeschooled. And homeschool creates a unique situation in that, again, you had the same teacher, you had the same substitute teacher. I taught a few classes along the way as well, but it's a unique thing because you were one of two people in your class, and that other person graduated 2 years ago, and so at that point you became the only one in your class. Plus, you grow up with your teachers. And so when I get ready to get up here and talk about you and your future and what I could give you, I'm thinking, what can I say that I haven't already said? And there's probably nothing that I can say that I haven't already said. I think I said something similar at Apollonia's graduation. I'm just going to try and give you a greatest hits of all the stuff that I've tried to teach you over the past 18 years. First of all, it's been a joy. It's been awesome with both of you guys. We've had rough times. We've caused each other tears. But for the most part, it's been a great ride. And as I watched those pictures up there, it's going to be hard to let that go. That's the way it goes. That's what's supposed to happen. You're taking that next step, and you're going to go further and further away from us. Don't ever forget us. But that step that you take, those steps that you will take, is part of the process. And the fact that you're able to take those shows that we've done a good job. So please, show that we've done a good job in that. But I do want to share with you again what I feel is just some of my greatest hits, if you want to call them that. Again, you've heard this stuff more times than you can count. This time it's a little different because you're taking it on your own. You're not doing this. You're not going to do this stuff any longer because I'm a part of this family and this is what Dad teaches. This is what Mom and Dad expect of me. You're going to be able to take these things and apply them to your life. And you may adjust some of them, and that's okay. These things aren't perfect. I think they're good. That's why I teach them. But they're not perfect. But you're going to take that and you're going to make adjustments to it to fit your life and what you're doing in your direction. You know that my word is enthusiasm. And I am on a mission to help people break out of the monotony of the mundane and the mediocre so they can break through to their enthusiasm zone. And that is my charge to you. Always live out that definition of enthusiasm, that God-inspired fire ignited deep within your soul that drives you to never settle, to live with passion, and turn the world upside down. Realize that in that, it's not all about you. It's about what God is doing in you and through you, but it's also about how you're going to affect the world. I remember when I graduated high school, my math teacher signed my annual, and she put in the annual, "The world is not ready for you." And I feel I could say the same thing about you. The world's not ready for you, but it's going to experience you. It's going to experience you in an amazing way if you continue to follow that fire that God has put in your heart. Romans chapter 12, verse 11 is my charge to you. Don't be lazy. Don't look for the easy way out. Don't try to take what seems to be the easiest or even the most profitable at the moment. A few years ago, we had you read a book called Do the Hard Things. And that book was all about not taking the easy route, but sometimes taking the hardest route because you know it is the right choice. Don't be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. John 10:10 says, "The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." That living that life to the full sounds a lot to me like enthusiasm. But Satan doesn't want you to have that. And he's going to put things in your way. He's going to trip you up at times. He's going to make you feel like you need to take a different direction because this just isn't working out. My encouragement to you is to kick Satan out of the way and continue to live what God has put in you to live out. Now, you know what I call those things that Satan puts in our way to try to trip us up. I call them mundanians. Mundanians. Those things that Satan puts in our way to mess us up. And I think although the writer of Hebrews would not have used this term, but I think that's what he was talking about in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. When he says, since you are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, and listen, this is a cloud of witnesses right here. We're all on your team. That's why everyone is here. They're not here out of duty. They're not here because somebody made them come here. They're here because they love you. And they want to be an encouragement to you. And they will continue to be an encouragement to you, as well as others that were not able to be here. You are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, cheerleaders to cheer you on as you go. The rest of that verse says, throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Things will come your way that will hinder you. Things will come your way that shackle you. And my encouragement to you, as the Hebrew writer says, is to throw all that stuff off. Work through those. Overcome those. Whatever it takes to get those out of your way so that you can run your race with perseverance. That is a life of enthusiasm. Now, you probably know that I've got 8 decisions, right? You heard those before? 8 decisions in order to break out of the monotony of the mundane and the mediocre so that you could break through to your enthusiasm zone. Because our decisions shape our destiny, not our circumstances. You can't control the circumstances around you most of the time. When we experienced the pandemic a few years ago, there's not a whole lot we could have done to change that, if anything. But the way you responded to it was your decision. The way you respond to everything that comes your way is your decision. And your decisions shape your destiny, not your circumstances. Here's the decisions I encourage you to make. The first decision, embrace your weird. And I think from the pictures that we saw on the screen, we could tell that you've done a pretty good job of that already. When Mommy started spouting off Skibbity Toilet and What the Sigma and Ohio, Gatorade, all those are direct quotes from Dylan, okay? You have embraced your weird. My encouragement is to continue to do that. God has made you in a unique way, for a unique purpose. And you may not fully understand what that purpose is yet, although you may have caught glimpses of it. But continue to grow in that and continue to follow that. Galatians chapter 6, verses 4 and 5 says, make a careful exploration of who you are and the work you have been given, and then sink yourself into that. Don't be impressed with yourself. It's not about you. So don't be impressed with yourself. Don't compare yourself with others. Each one of you must take responsibility for doing the creative best you can with your own life. Make that decision to embrace the way God has created you, not the way society tries to create you, not the way your circumstances try to create you, not even the way your family or your friends try to create you. Embrace the way that God has created you and live that out. The next decision is never settle. Never settle. Continue to move forward. Like I said before, there are going to be things that get in your way, and you're going to be tempted to settle. You're going to be tempted to say, well, maybe this just isn't for me. And my encouragement to you is to never settle. You've heard me use the illustration of the fleas in the jar. When they put all the fleas in that jar and they put the lid on it, and you could hear those fleas hitting up against the lid of that jar. But after a while, it became slower and slower and more faint till eventually they were not hitting the lid. They weren't dead. They just stopped hitting the lid. And then they took the lid off that jar. And none of the fleas jumped out of that jar, even though the lid was gone, because they'd been trained that they could only go so far. Satan is going to try to train you that you can only go so far. And what do we learn from the fleas in the jar? Do you remember? What is it? I'm putting you on the spot here. All right. No lids, no limits. There you go. Maybe all this hasn't sunk in as much as I thought it had. No lids, no limits. Never settle. Keep moving forward. The next decision is the decision to turn the world upside down. Realize it's not about you. This graduation is not about you. It's about accomplishing one phase of your life, going into the next phase of your life for the impact that you're going to have on the world. You may be a race car driver, but realize when you race cars, it's not all about you. You may be a great creative person and doing film editing, and you may make movies one day. I don't know. But if you do, realize it's not about you. It's about the impact you make on the world. Make the decision to turn the world upside down. Next, make the decision to hope as you climb to your God-given potential. Always grow. Always keep learning. Always keep watching those videos to know how to do things better. Whatever it is you're doing in life, never get to the place where you go, you know what? I'm good enough. I've arrived. Never get there. And if you ever do, change the course because you're done in that area. Always be growing physically, emotionally, mentally, intellectually, as well as spiritually. Always continue to grow and never get to the point where you go, I'm satisfied. Celebrate the wins and then look at ways that you can continue to move forward and grow and realize that that hope inside of you is what fuels the climb. The next decision is to utilize the power of positive failure. You already know that failure is a part of life. It's part of my life. It's part of your life. It's part of everybody's life. The one characteristic that all successful people have most in common is failure. But they didn't allow the failure to lead to them quitting. They learned from it and they moved on. It's a learning opportunity. Failure is the opportunity to begin again more intelligently because you have found out what does not work. Continue to move forward. It was Thomas Edison that was once asked after he had tried inventing something, and he tried over 1,000 different ways. And an interviewer asked him, says, what does it feel like to be such a great inventor and to have failed over 1,000 times? And he said, I haven't failed over 1,000 times. I've found over 1,000 ways it's not going to work. He was closer at that point than he'd ever been. When you hit failures, even if it's repeated failures, see them as learning opportunities. And you can grow better from it rather than growing bitter from that failure. The only way that you have truly failed is if you give up or you blame others. Take responsibility. That way you have control of it. If you blame other people, then you lose control because you can't control what the other people do. But as long as you take responsibility, regardless of what somebody else has done, if you take responsibility for you and the failure that took place, that means you have control over what you can do the next time around. You learn from it. It is a learning opportunity. The next one is set goals. And you've heard this a lot around our house. We do it as a family every year. We get together and we set our family goals and we set individual goals. We even have a habit of getting in the hallway of our house and we review our goals And then we put our hands all in like a team and we cheer each other on as we move toward our goals. Now, at least to some extent, you've probably done that because, hey, that's what we do in the Lanham household. Going back to Romans 12:11, we don't allow laziness. Once you get out of here, you can choose laziness if you want to. But my encouragement, and Paul's encouragement in Romans, is to not do that. Develop direction. And that's what goals does. It gives us direction. Even if we're active, if we're not active in a specific direction, it's not going to get us anywhere. And what goals do is they give us a direction. It gives us a focus to be able to work toward that particular goal. You've heard me talk about the processionary caterpillars that they put in a circle, and they're so named because they literally follow each other. And so they put them in this circle, and they put the processionary caterpillar's favorite food, pine needles, in the middle of that circle. And they continued to go around and around and around and around until eventually they died from starvation and exhaustion with their favorite food just inches away. They were active, but they did not have any focus. Activity is not what we're talking about. People can be active and still be lazy because they're too lazy to set a direction and move in the direction that they have set. But the ones that accomplish, the ones who change the world, are the ones that set out a goal and they work toward that goal. And if they fail, they learn from it and they continue on toward that goal. That's my encouragement to you, to make that decision to set goals for your life. No longer because mommy and daddy have a thing where we get together and we do it, but because you're taking control of your own life and you're setting those goals for you. The next decision is the decision to engage your heart. Do things that you have a passion for. And when I talk about passion, I'm talking about a godly passion, not an ungodly passion. There's some things you should not have a passion for. But those godly passions in your life that God has put there, continue to live that out. We don't want to be led by our heart, but we don't want to ignore our heart either. Because if we don't engage our heart, if we don't engage that passion, then life becomes a drag and at times can become unlivable. But you could face the problems, you could face the failures, you could face the issues, you could face the negative circumstances that may surround you at times if you continue to keep your heart engaged in what God is calling you to do. And the last decision that I want to share with you, and you already know this as well, is to discover your purpose. And maybe you're already along the way in that. And my encouragement is to continue to pursue that. Why are you here? Why did God bring you here? Is it so that we could have some cool pictures to look at your graduation? Is it so that mommy and daddy could have a son and a daughter, which is what we always wanted, one of each? That's not your purpose. Your purpose is much bigger than that. Your purpose is the reason God has put you on this earth and what He wants to do in you and through you. Ephesians 2:10 says that you are God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works which God prepared in advance for you to do. Ephesians chapter 1, verses 11 and 12 says it's in Christ that we find out who we are and what we are living for. Long before you first heard of Christ and got your hopes up, He had His eye on you, had designs on you for glorious living as a part of His overall purpose He is working out in everything and everyone. It's in Christ. Always keep that at the forefront. It's only in Jesus that you're going to discover your purpose. Make those decisions and live this out. You know, we talked earlier about Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. If you go on down to Hebrews 12, verse 2, it says, after we've thrown off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and we run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Verse 2 says, keep your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of your faith. Regardless of what you do in life, keep your eyes on Jesus. Something may happen where you can't always do exactly what you had planned out. And if that does, you make the adjustments and you move forward. But always keep your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of your faith. Because that is the only way that we could truly live out Romans chapter 12, verse 11. Don't be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Do you remember when we were in Kentucky and me, you, Appolonya, and Mommy went to see the movie The Greatest Showman? You remember that? And I know that wasn't necessarily your favorite. I think you enjoyed it in the beginning, but Mommy watched it 100 times, and I think you got tired of it. But when I came home from that movie, that was such a powerful movie. I actually wrote down, I just began writing in my notebook, but out of that came this thing that I have come to call the enthusiasm manifest destiny. And I want to leave this as a charge to you as you go on to this next stage of life. I am escaping the mundane jungle and living as an enthusiast. I am ready to leave the mediocre and the status quo behind. The box that so many talk about may inform me, but it will not contain me. I will fight the fight, run the race, step beyond my stride. I will seek out the greatness in others so we could share our journey together. I cannot be satisfied. It is not in my DNA. I cannot grasp the concept of arrival. I am only limited by my imagination, and my imagination is limitless and running wild. The greatest nation in the world is imagination. I cannot be still. I cannot be held. I cannot be settled. Here I go. My time has come. I will surpass myself daily. I cannot hold back. I serve a God with no limitations, and therefore when I allow God's power to work through me, I have no limits. I have left the land of the Mundanians. They are no longer my tribe. They are too small to fit me any longer. I have entered the land of the enthusiast. Igniting my enthusiasm has become my daily routine. The enthusiast will change the world, and any part they cannot change, they will leave to its own small, mediocre, status quo, mundane demise. I have not come this far to only come this far. There is still more enthusiasm to spread, and I will become the number one enthusiasm spreader in the world. That's my charge to you. Go and live this out. Make the decisions. Ignite your enthusiasm and live that out on a day-to-day basis, and you will change the world. Dylan, if you will step up here. Now, as you usually hear at graduation ceremonies, please hold your applause until everyone's name has been called. Dylan, I want to congratulate you on fulfilling the requirements to graduate from the Studium Preparatory Academy. And this is your diploma that you have rightfully achieved.
You know, when you fall over, you always make more progress than when you step, but you have to get back up. Hello, my name is Dylan Lanham, Robert Dylan Lanham. I am a content creator with over 3,400 followers across all platforms. I am the third fastest Gran Turismo player in the state of New York and the fastest in Division II. I did a lot of things growing up, as you saw on the screen up there. And as my mom said, I did a lot of things, like different phases. I was obsessed with stuff. Like if I got into something, like I would go full into it. Like I would know everything about it. I went from knowing nothing about mechanical keyboards whatsoever to being able to build one from scratch in 3 days. So I spend a lot of time on those obsessions, I guess you could call them. As I did those things growing up, I realized that I was weird, obviously, but I realized that to other people, that was out of the ordinary. That wasn't normal. And to be able to want to make a career out of it was even weirder. So I realized at a very young age, I did not want to be normal. I wanted to get something that that nobody else would do. Because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So I wanted to find something that was hard, but that was also something I enjoyed doing. I think I have found that with motorsports, with racing, and with YouTube. I'm recording a YouTube video right now, thanks to Oliver. And as an example to my first point, I made a goal at the beginning of the year to reach 1,000 subscribers by the time I graduate. I did not, in fact, reach that goal. I'm at 371. But the thing is, I failed, I fell, but I got back up. I didn't stop making YouTube videos. In fact, I'm making more YouTube videos, more consistently, more higher quality YouTube videos. So failure is a motivation if you turn it into one. Now, I did make this speech, like 90% of it last night at midnight, so forgive me if it's a little bit janky. One of the ways I found what I wanted to do is, I've heard from somebody, my dad says this quote, I forgot who said it, but he said that everybody has Michael Jordan level talent at something. And so going through all those different phases as a kid, I found things that I had immense talent as. No need to brag, but I found things that I was just naturally good at. Some were sports, some were content creation, some was just all kinds of stuff. But I found some that I was better at, some that I was worse at. I tried sports stacking for like a month, didn't really get that good at that. And because it was something different, something that not many people did, as I said earlier, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. It allowed me to work by thinking outside of the box. If you go to a job every single day, 9 to 5, full-time job, and you graduate in your 60s or 70s, retire, that's inside the box. That's the status quo, that's the system. And the only way to get out of the box is to think out of the box. And with creative and physical careers like that, it's easier to. It's easy to do that, or not easy, it's possible to do that with normal jobs like that, but it's easier to do it in a field that requires you to think outside of the box. And it's very competitive too. Because when you go into a career that, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, then you know it's gonna be hard. Everybody else going into it knows it's gonna be hard. So everybody else is trying just as hard as you. So you gotta put all of your effort into it because everybody else is putting their effort into it. A quote by Ayrton Senna, one of the greatest Formula One drivers to ever live. Some people even think he's the greatest. He said, "The one who finishes second is the first to lose." So I also heard another quote. This guy had a line of trees in his yard, and 4 of the trees were planted a month before the other one was. The difference between all of those trees, the one that was planted a month later had no leaves. So the 4 trees that were planted earlier, a month earlier, created their roots, established their presence, and they grew leaves and grew fully. And then the other tree was planted a month later and was not able to find its way through the root system. The other trees have already established their root system. It grew, but it didn't grow any leaves. So it survived, but it didn't prosper. And so You may be like all the other trees, but if you're not first, you have no leaves. You have to put all of your effort into whatever you want to do to get those leaves, to get first, to not finish second. It's very difficult. I heard another quote, I forgot who this was by either. I didn't do a lot of research for this, but to get something you've never had, you must do something you never did. Finding a job that requires you to do that, you're not going to work hard for it unless you love doing it. I've always heard the expression, do something you love, or find something you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. That's sort of true. I don't fully agree with that, because there will be times you don't want to do it. And when you do it, okay, I said do. When you do it, because you know that in the end, it is going to be what you want. And that separates the good from the great. When you know that you're going to want it, that in the future, say you are doing racing. Say you want to be a Formula One driver, and you started racing knowing you want to be a Formula One driver, and you practiced and practiced and practiced. You did karting, you did the simulator, you went to small like Formula 4 championships, all the low-level stuff. You started to get bored of staying in one place, and you wanted to advance more and more and faster. But you knew you would, but you weren't at the time. If you keep going, those are the ones who made it to Formula One. That's Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris. If you give up thinking it's taking too long, those are the ones that never make it to Formula One. So it doesn't matter if you want to wake up and do the work or not. The rest of the world is going to keep moving, and things are going to keep happening regardless. When you wake up, there's a job that needs to be done, and you have to do it regardless of your feelings, because you know it's what you truly want to happen. I want to close with a story from David Goggins. Most of y'all might have heard his name. He's a motivational speaker, Navy SEAL. He has a pull-up record. He's described by some as the toughest man on the planet. So there's a story that he tells on a podcast. I'm going to tell it from his perspective. Say you're God, and say I spent my whole life working at Ecolab spraying for cockroaches, retired, and then died 5 years later. Just a normal 9-to-5 job, working for somebody else, and I was content with that. And say I get to heaven, and there's a long line of people getting into heaven, and you see a board up above the gates of heaven, and you see Adam Brown. You see Adam Brown walk up, and he gets into heaven. He fulfilled what he was required to do. But then, say I come up, and it says, David Goggins, Navy SEAL, Ranger School, pull-up record, motivational speaker, changing lives. And I look at God and I say, that's not me. I worked for Ecolab my whole life. And God looks at me and he says, that's who you were supposed to be. Not what you could have been, what you were supposed to be. What you were put on this world to do, and you failed to do it. I heard another quote from somebody else's graduation speech. I'm going to steal that for a bit. But he said, imagine on your deathbed, there's a bunch of ghosts around you representing your unfulfilled potential. And they tell you, they said, we came to you because we thought you could do something for us. And you failed to fulfill that, and now we have to go to the grave together. Are you fulfilling what you were put on this world to do? Are you being what you were supposed to be? And if not, are you going to? Because anybody can do anything. Why not you? Why not now? Thank you.
Better watch my back, huh? There you go. All right, Dylan, at this time, if you will stand up, please. This is what we call the shifting of the tassel, and there's symbolism behind this. The reason that you start the graduation off with the tassel on the right side, it symbolizes the fact that you have the right to be here. You've accomplished the task that's been set before you over the past 13 years to earn the right to be at this place at this moment. Now we're getting ready to shift that. So if you'll take your tassel and shift it to the left. And that means that you have now left that part of your life. You have left that behind. And you are ready for new things. You're ready to take on that new adventure. You're ready to put into practice, even more so, some of the things that you just talked about when you were up here a few minutes ago. You earned the right, and now it's time that you left that part of your life and you go in to your next place of life. So, ladies and gentlemen who are here with us today, we want to invite you to go down with us when we are finishing up here in a minute to continue to celebrate this with Dylan. And we're going to pray for him, and then I'm going to present this class to you. All right? Dear God, we just thank you for Dylan. We thank you for his motivation to continue to move forward. And God, I just pray that you continue to equip him and empower him to move him forward in a direction that you have him go, dear Father. And that he seeks out the direction, and that through it all, he keeps his eye on Jesus, the author and perfecter of his faith. It's in his precious and powerful name that we pray. Amen. Dylan, if you will turn around and face the crowd, I now present to you the 2024 graduating class of the Studium Preparatory Academy. Woo! You are dismissed down the aisle.